As Ollie Gordon and Oklahoma State look to put a stamp on what could be yet another massive, memorable Bedlam, it's time to bring back some legends, especially some legends that have a very good track record in Bedlam.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You know, you can find us on every single podcasting platform, visually as well on YouTube. Catch me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. Today we've got a special surprise in line because, again, whenever we think back to Bedlam, it's hard to believe that there was a point in time where Bedlam W's were, I wouldn't say expected, but they came quite often. And in this realm, I also got to mention, right, it's good to make some money. Make sure that if you've been thinking about FanDuel, join today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Right now, we're giving $150 away off a $5 bet and bonus bets. Go there now today. Bedlam is a fickle mistress, it seems at times, but check this out. 1995, Bedlam W. 1997, Bedlam W. 98, Bedlam W. 2001, Bedlam W. 2002, Bedlam W. See, there's a theme here. There was a time where taking OU behind the woodshed was not a thing of the past. Helping me with that today, ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma State and NFL running back legend, Reggie White. How are you feeling today, sir?
I'm doing great.
Thank you very much for coming on. Yeah, so as I just kind of was able to shine some light on, right before you got to Oklahoma State, Bob Simmons was pretty fresh off of a Bedlam W. The year you get to Oklahoma State, 1997, another win, 98, which you were an integral part of. That win, it kept going. So when you came to Oklahoma State, let's first off talk about that and kind of your road and how you chose Oklahoma State before we get into some of the Bedlam discussion. So you were all-state, first team, all-district in two different sports coming out of high school. So kind of walk us through a little bit of how you decided to choose Oklahoma State because you're a pretty sought-after guy.
Well, it was a process with my mom and dad and my family. I had to choose between LSU, Michigan, and Oklahoma State. They came down to my top three schools I was interested in and was coming down to choosing. And, you know, just with my mom being so vital in my life, we just prayed about it. My dad and, you know, Coach Simmons and them came down. Coach Levine was my running back coach. Actually, Coach Miles, he was very important in the recruiting process before he left to go to the Cowboys. And it felt like family. So that was the main reason why I chose to go to Oklahoma State, because I knew with R.W. McQuarters, Kenyatta Wright, they were my hosts. It just felt like family. It felt perfect for me.
It's amazing to think that the Cowboy culture, it's had some different change-ups over the years and over the time. But so last time I talked to Tatum Bell, right, we had discussed some of the great backs that were there, Jamal Fobbs obviously being one. Nathan Simmons was a pretty good power back. And then I was mentioning Vernon Morency and what it must have been like. And he brought me back and he said, no, Reggie White. He said, Reggie White was the dude when I showed up on campus, and that was the guy that was pushing me. That's the guy that I was chasing. That's the guy that made me better and made me become the guy who I was. And so naturally I was like, well, then I need to get Reggie. And he said, yeah, you do need to get Reggie on the show because people tend to forget how good you were at Oklahoma State University. And then you followed up with a very successful 8-year NFL career. You got some wonderful time with the Jacksonville Jaguars and made some stuff happen. And yeah, I do think that people tend to forget Oklahoma State does have a long line of great running backs. People tend to talk about how many wide receivers we put into the NFL. I don't think people understand that Oklahoma State's actually put far more running backs in the NFL than wide receivers. And some of it started back with your time. So you chose LSU, Michigan, and you chose Oklahoma State because of the family atmosphere, because of the beginning of that Cowboy culture, right?
Right.
Well, part of that carryover from Bob Simmons to Les Miles, both of which they were ready to beat OU. They expected it to be an absolute torturous physical dogfight. So walk us through what it was like, not only playing for, that transitional period, but what was the expectation in the locker room every Bedlam? Like, was there any trepidation? Was there, oh crap, this is OU? Or was the mindset more oriented to, we're just going to go take care of business?
The mindset, we're going to win. We didn't care what the record was. We didn't care what our record was. We didn't care what their record was. If you go back to 2000, when they won a championship, and that was Coach Simmons last year, I believe 2000. We were 3-8. It was a 12-9 game. We didn't care that they was coming into our house undefeated. We expected to win. If you can't get up for Bedlam, then you don't need to be a Cowboy, because every time we stepped on that field, we felt we could win that game, and we felt we were the better team. So it wasn't no fear. It wasn't like, oh, this is OU. Who cares that it's OU? We feel like we the top dogs in Oklahoma. Even when it came to Tulsa too, we knew we was going to smack them too. So we went into every game thinking we was going to win, especially when we played OU.
Well, so it's funny you mentioned that, right? I was watching the 2000 game against Texas, and you and Tatum teamed up for a pretty big day, and you wouldn't rewatch that game, man. If it's not for a couple turnovers, that's likely a W against Major Applewhite, right? Albert Craig had a big pick. Your defensive line did a lot of phenomenal things. You already mentioned Kenyatta Wright. You mentioned R.W. McQuarters. And then, when you play with guys like Kevin Williams, I'm sure that the competition from a physicality perspective is partially what allowed y'all to be so successful. Am I pretty on there with the brand of football that you guys made sure you brought to Stillwater, America?
Oh, definitely. We definitely adopted a physical game. You got to remember, we had Coach Ryan there when I first got there as a coordinator. We had the top, like my freshman year, we had the top linebacker crew, and then once Kenyatta, TK Niles, Raymond Cato, we had Justin Thomas, we had Chris Carter, big safety. Then after they left, we had Dwayne Levels. That year you talking about UT, we had Terrence Robinson, we had Greg Richmond, we had young Kevin Williams. People don't understand. He was a young Kevin Williams causing so much havoc at D tackle. And we came into every game thinking we was going to win, knowing we could win the game. Like you said, a couple of times we had fumbles. We was a little bit undisciplined at times, but we never came into the game thinking, oh, we're going to lose this game.
And, man, again, that the physicality, you could tell it was brought to the fold every single day, every single game. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to remind you that if you're trying to get your money right in today's economy, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but you can take one step closer. If you like football and you like money, then maybe you should probably give FanDuel a try. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been thinking about potentially joining FanDuel, there's literally not a better time to do it. And it doesn't really matter if you're trying to get into the college game action, the NFL game action, we've got you covered. Right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. Again, that's $150 back in bonus if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining, you got to get on it. The app is safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on anything from money lines, player props, over, unders, Heisman's, who's going to win the conference, who's going to win the Super Bowl, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off your NFL money-making season, because FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. All right, so speaking of NFL, I would assume that physicality that was brought at Oklahoma State University is partially what prepared you for such a long and extensive NFL career, because you just mentioned some of the guys that you had to go up against every day that made that level of competition and intensity a lot more. With that transitional period, would you agree, or actually, let me ask you this. What would you say was the biggest thing that you took from Oklahoma State to the NFL that allowed you to be so successful and stick in the league for so long?
Being competitive every day and having
Okay.
to work and going to work. You know, with Coach Simmons, you had to come to work every day, no matter who you was. You were never above the team. It was all about the team, and he always kept a good group of guys coming in where he compete. Like you say, me and Tatum Bell, we went at it every day and competed. That's my brother to this day. I talk to him all the time. Jamal Fobbs, he was there before me. That's my brother to this day. I talk to him all the time. So we had good competition, and we loved to compete against each other, and we pushed each other. If one of us wasn't going hard, we would lift each other up. Even when Tatum was a young freshman, if I did something, he'd be like, "Bro, you know, we got to pick it up this practice," and that's how we pushed each other. Iron sharpens iron, and that's the biggest thing I took, knowing that, hey, this guy might be an 8-year vet, but I'm coming over here to try to get your job, you know, and every day I'm going to come compete to get this job. So that was the most important thing I took from being at Oklahoma State.
All right, so your journey, you came out after almost an 1,100-yard season at Oklahoma State. You were only one of 4 backs in the Big 12 to accomplish that during that time frame. Mm-hmm. Whenever you came out, right, you initially went to the Jets. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Right. And then you went to the Titans, Steelers, and then you had quite a bit of play with the Jacksonville Jaguars. How was that, man? How was that grinding through the league through a couple of years, right? You're on some rosters, you're making some stuff happen, you're bouncing around, and then you get your shot and you take advantage of it, and you absolutely have a phenomenal stretch there in Jacksonville. What was that experience like to finally get the call and say, "Hey, dude, come on, it's your time to shine"?
It was a relief. You know, them first couple stints was a little tough mentally, because, you know, the adjustment of always being the man and playing. You have to adjust your game and realize you have to be a superstar in your role. When you got a back like Fred Taylor in front of you, you have to be a superstar on special teams. And that's something I did in high school, but I did a little bit at Oklahoma State, but it was more of just being a running back. But the adjustment was, hey, come here, be a superstar in your role, which is on special teams. Go down here, do the very best job you can do. And once you transition and understand the business side of the NFL and what you have to do in order to stick with a team, then it's a little more easier for you to do it if you accept your role.
I dig it. Okay, so before we jump on into some of the craziness that is this world in recruiting, let's jump back to Bedlam a little bit.
Okay.
Whenever you guys were going through the preparation for that, right? We always hear that, you know, every game on the schedule is important. The next game is the biggest game, right? And I do get that, because you do want your guys to stay pretty level-headed. If they think too far ahead, right, they can get confused in the game plan and not take a certain opponent seriously. But isn't it true that Bedlam just brings a little extra layer of spice? Like, it's a game that you maybe not necessarily circle on the schedule, but you know you cannot wait to play it. Is the excitement and the intensity in the locker room, does it seem to amp up a little bit more for this one, brother?
You get laser focused. So whoever then played this game, yes, the coach going to tell you, hey, you know, it's one of 10, one of 11. Not to the player. Not to the player. You're going to be amped up. You're going to be locked in. All of partying or whatever that you do in your extra time when you got free time, you cut that out and you get locked in, because you know I might have to see these guys in Oklahoma City when we out going to the mall or whatever. So you definitely going to be locked in. It's definitely the most important game to you as a player.
What are your thoughts on it seeing go away? And do you think that it'll eventually come back?
I hope it come back. It should come back. It's a big tradition. It means a lot to the community. It means a lot to the state. It means a lot to both schools, to the alumni, to to the present players.
Mm-hmm.
It means a lot to the coaching staff, whether they want to admit it or not. It does. So I think it's something that they definitely don't need to do away with, and it's only gonna make it for a great tradition to continue.
Before you, where we already had some greats like Bob Fenimore and Ernest Anderson and Terry Miller. Obviously, you were part of the greatness to go with Tatum Bell and Vernon Morency and honestly Dontrell Savage and Kendall Hunter and Keith Toston, Chuba Hubbard, Justice Hill, Jalen Warren, Tyreek Hill. The list goes on and on. Chris Carson of NFL.
Let me say one more person I think people forget about. David Thompson.
Oh yes, 1995.
See, before I went for 1,000 yards, it was David Thompson, and then we went to a stretch where nobody had 1,000 yards. Then it was me, and then we went on a long stretch. Then Tatum Bell, then Vernon, then all of those guys came. But David Thompson was one of the set the tone that a lot of people don't even talk about anymore.
You know what? You're 100% right. And I am very, very, very glad that you threw that in there because, people tend to forget. Without David Thompson, 1995 Bedlam doesn't even happen, right? He was able to kind of put the team on his shoulders that entire season, really. So it does make a lot of sense that he kind of set the physicality level. And from a size perspective, you came in at 5'11", 225. Is that around accurate, Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Wasn't he considerably smaller?
Yeah. Yeah, he was considerably smaller. And then, I had Andre Richardson there too with Jamal, but, he had, some academic things, but that guy was super special. Andre Richardson was super. He was right there backing up David Thompson when David Thompson was going for 1,500 yards, 1,400 yards. Andre Richardson he was my mentor when I got there, him and Jamal Fobbs.
See, this is why we're doing the Legends Bedlam, so we can all relive some not only the glory days, because Bob Simmons went 3 for 3 with Bedlam, Les Miles went 2 for 2 in Bedlam. So you're right at the creme de la creme of ages where Bedlam was not only a thing, but it was a thing that reverberated around Stillwater quite often. All right, so there's a list of a lot of amazing backs. When you watch Ollie Gordon, like, kind of what comes to mind? Because, again, we've had all these phenomenal backs, but he's approaching like Barry Sanders. Nobody's going to say he's Barry Sanders, of course, right? But the back-to-back 250 plus, nobody's done that since Barry, right? Some of the consecutive things that he's been able to do in back-to-back games now is Thurman Barry style numbers. When you watch Ollie Gordon as an Oklahoma State fan, as an alum, and as one of the quintessential members of this rich running back history, man, what goes through your mind watching this dude?
Chills. Me and my son watching. I show him he's special. It's even better to watch it on TV for me because I can see certain things that a lot of, just your ordinary fan can't see.
Roger.
He's special. It remind me of Tatum when Tatum got serious his junior year, that stretch he had his senior year. It remind me of T Bell when like them long runs like he broke last week. It remind me of that. He breaking a lot of long runs, but he got that physical size like I had as well. He's a big back. He's a strong back. He run hard. He run in between the tackles, but he also got that speed to break them long runs. So to me, he a complete back. Any block, because going to that next level, you have to be a willing blocker to take on them A gap blocks, them B gap blocks, and he definitely doing that. I just hope they start using him in the passing game a little more because that's where you start being to that upper echelon as going, moving forward to the NFL. You got to be able to get in that passing game as well. You see where the game is going. So once they showcasing that he can get out there in that space and run different routes, he's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 backs in the country.
Well, and you're 100% right? Because that's the difference in today's NFL game between an every down back and a third down specialist, right? A lot of teams have a third down specialist now. And not that there's anything wrong with being relegated to that role, but I think you're 100% right. If you want to be an every down back, you do have to bring that into your repertoire. A couple weeks ago, I think it was KU that, he did have quite a few touches, and that allotted for some of his massive yards. But I agree, we do need to see it a little bit more. So you mentioned your son. So we're about to jump into some of the recruiting and how it is now in comparison to when you were growing up and even I was growing up. But before we do that and hit a commercial real quick, give me the one thing that Ollie Gordon has that you haven't seen in a long time. Because his jump cut was something that nobody really saw coming, right? Because we didn't see a lot of that last year. His jump cut is already next level. Is there something else that you see instantaneously that makes you go, yeah, he's got something extra?
Well, to echo that, his jump cut, when he jump cut, he don't lose no speed. Some people jump cut and it gets stiff, and then you have to regain your momentum and pick up your speed. When he jump cut, it's just a natural fluent jump cut, and his first step is still real quick and real powerful where you can get into another move. See, a lot of guys, you don't have a counter move after you do your first move. Well, he's one of those guys got his first move, then he got a counter move, and then he bringing power and speed with it as well. A lot of times, backs, they feet die down, or they die, as they say, they stop. His feet never stop, and that's why he break a lot of tackles.
That's amazing. And I knew you would have a phenomenal answer. All right, buddy. So we're about to jump in and talk about a little of the recruiting side of the game real quick. But you guys know I do have to swing through in real quick and let all the fine people out here know that your ride or die rig doesn't matter if it cannot make it. You can't be the MVP of anything if your vehicle cannot get to its destination. So eBay Motors has got you covered. You already know this. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll get everything you need, from roof racks to exhaust kits to LED headlights and superchargers. If you want more speed, more power, and more style, eBay Motors has you covered. Make sure that you go there now, because you want to be burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need, all the prices you want, it is super easy to turn your rig into the MVP and bring home the W. Keep your ride or die rig alive, ladies and gentlemen, by going to ebaymotors.com. Again, that is ebaymotors.com. Go there now. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. Go to eBay Motors today. Burn rubber, not cash. All right, Reggie. So to cap everything off, right, your son's going through the recruiting process, and you and I were able to talk a little bit off air about how things have obviously considerably changed since our day of going through some of the recruiting process, right? It used to be pretty simple. You either got a letter in the mail or you didn't, right? That was the beginning of everything. Nowadays, and my son's going through the recruiting process as well in baseball, but it's way different than I was growing up. But football, even more so, with NIL, with the transfer market, right? And even the COVID year kind of added a different layer, because you had to pay attention to what rosters were going to have a bunch of 6-7 year type of dudes. So as your son's going through the recruiting process right now, and he's the same age as Tatum Jr., correct?
No, he a year younger. He a freshman.
You're younger, okay. But as he's going through the process, can you kind of break down some of the things that are different between then and now, and what are some areas that kids and parents need to focus on, laser focus, so they don't get caught in the hogwash and craziness of recruiting?
One of the main things I see that's totally different was mainly what you did on the field. It was what you did between the lines when I came out. You know, it's more they was watching film, seeing your competition, seeing what your stats was, different things like your yards per carry, your touchdowns. Nowadays, it's about going to camps. It's about testing. It's more about combine test scores, the potential of what you can do instead of what you are actually doing on the field. So one of the most important things I tell people nowadays is you got to get to them camps. You got to get to camps in Texas, like Rivals. You got to go to Oklahoma State camp. You got to go to different personal camps at the school because they want to see what you do in your shorts and T-shirt and testing you how high you can jump instead of, most important thing when I was going, what you did in them shoulder pads and hammer. What you doing when you get when the bright lights get on Friday night. And that didn't change. So where you see a lot of kids, they might start getting recruited because they went and ran a 4.3 or 4.5. And you look at the film and you like, well, this guy over here is making so much noise, but this guy got 4 stars over here because of what he ran in the 40. Mm-hmm. But then once they get to college, you wonder why you don't hear from that guy because he wasn't even doing that between the lines. And another thing is to be careful on your social media because them kids really don't know that them coaches are looking at what you're doing because that give them a scope, a little insight of what your character is, what you're doing, how you doing things outside of football. And I tell kids to make sure you be safe on that Instagram or Twitter or whatever you're doing, what you're posting. And the parents need to monitor their kids more. They need to hold their kids accountable. I think we get away from that so much where we feel like every kid is entitled to this. You're not entitled to nothing. Everything is earned. And that's what I tell my kids. Nobody care about what your dad did. That's what your dad did. You got to go out there and make your own way. And you got to hold yourself accountable to doing things the right way. And it starts really in the youth where you got so much to change where you play a youth program and it's mandatory. Kid play so many plays or they got to get this much playing time. No, that's not how it's going to go as you get older and as you move forward and you teaching kids bad habits already of entitlement and not holding them accountable. And that's the main thing that I see that's been changed that we need to bring back is the accountability, earning everything. Whatever you earn is what you get. I tell kids all the time, whatever you put into the game that's what you're going to get out the game. So you be lazy and don't do extra work. Don't be mad when you get out there and you're not getting the shine that you thought you was going to get. It's not up to the coach. It's up to you and what you do. Everything is earned. Nothing is given in life.
Bro, that is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that was an amazing answer. Actually, a little bit more in depth than I was even shooting for. So, real quick before I let you skedaddle on out of here, whenever you're going through the recruiting process, does the transfer market come into play, or do you think kids should still be focused on going to a school and trying to make something happen at that school before they approach the idea of moving on? Because right now you're seeing one-year kids out the door.
Just goes to what I said, entitlement. Don't want to earn it.
Fair enough.
Don't want to compete. Oh, we got competition over here. Let me go over here. No, stay there and compete. You supposed to be the man. Stay there and compete and win the job. People scared of competition. No, me and T Bell, we gonna compete, bro. I'm winning this. You trying to get my job? I'm keeping my job. That's how it should be. I wish they would do away with that transfer. I do not like that at all.
Agreed. 100% agreed. All right, brother, man. Go ahead and let the fine people out here know what you got rocking and rolling. I know you're still heavily invested in some of the training game and getting kids coached up and ready to rock and roll. Tell the people what you got going on, how they can reach you, how they can find you and follow you.
And you can follow me at CMSA_22 Instagram, Twitter. Right now we just building a brand where we mentor kids. We teach them what to do out the field, on the field, in the classroom, making sure they understand about core GPA, and also teach them how to train the right way, making sure they take care of their body, making sure that they get their proper rest. So I'm just giving all the knowledge that I gain. I'm trying to give it back to my kids and also give it back to my community.
That is
but
amazing.
I also want to say this real quick, brother.
Yes, sir.
I'm so glad you got Tony Lindsay coming on this show because a lot of people forget about him as well. He was the Vic before Vic. He was the guy that could pass, run, do it all. But a lot of people forget that his redshirt freshman year, he the one brought back that winning tradition super, super special quarterback.
Yes. And yeah, we're going to have him on. We're going to have Tatum on. We're going to have Jeremy Smith on. Just got a message from Bobby Reed. We're going to have him on. I'm trying to keep this Legends Week thing rocking and rolling, but you're 100% right? I haven't told Tatum. My favorite player to ever watch live and in person was R.W. McQuarters, right?
Yeah.
My first favorite running back to ever watch was Tatum, right? Because I just got season tickets in 97. So I was obviously a big time fan, but watching some of the stuff that Tatum was able to do. And that's the thing, man. Whenever my son wanted to wear number 4, you were the first player that I showed him some highlights of. So I have some affinity, but the only jerseys I ever owned as a kid were R.W. McQuarters, Tatum Bell, and Tony Lindsay, dude. Tony Lindsay was a bad mamma jamma. And I still have a picture up in my office of Tony Lindsay, the number 10 jersey, right? Throwing a stiff arm. That's another reason I want to bring back the solid orange for this Bedlam. I know we typically only bring back the solid orange for like one non-con game a year, but it's the last one. Give me those memories of Tony Lindsay, Jamal Fobbs, Reggie White rocking the all orange on Lewis Field, because it's still called Lewis Field, surrounded by Boone Pickens Stadium. Right. Give me some of that. Build it up, man. I'm so excited for this week. It is such an honor to have you on the show. I'm greatly appreciative. Thank you very much for your time, brother. And we'll catch up down the road and definitely do this again. Maybe after Ollie wins the Heisman, we can revisit this running back conversation in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Thank you, brother. And go Pokes.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're trying to do this Legends of Bedlam and of the past this entire week. We've got a lot of heavy hitters coming on the program, but if we're going to talk about running backs, Reggie White has to be included in some of the greatest of all time to ever do it on Lewis Field. So it's such an honor to have him on the program. And you know the drill. That's all we're going to have for this one. Tune back in this afternoon as we have a coach from George Fox University come in and explain some of Leon Johnson's process from George Fox to Oklahoma State and how he showed up to Stillwater already pretty ready. All righty, y'all. You know the drill. I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And as always, thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.